Lost in space and time for over 10,000 years, on a mission they were never meant to return from. They have returned from the horrible secrets of space. They are the comic shop.
For you.
Oh snap! This is like a bulletproof vest.
Hey, we're live.
Oh hey, everybody! You're listening to the Ithacon Comic Shop podcast with me, Papa Z Lee.
Oh, I am the boss of the month, Evan Coy, and we're also here with
Alex Dexter.
Hey, ask him about Larry J's barbecue. Why don't you?
Do I want to?
Yeah,
That's your name today. It just says, "Ask me about Larry J's barbecue."
Yeah, I'm gonna shill for Larry J. I don't think I need to. I think that he's got a reasonable enough standing in that little community.
Who is Larry J?
So the last day we were at PAX, we were trying to figure out what to do for dinner, and it's like, I really wanted like a fancy steak, and it's like, I don't know. Joe's kind of got a bum foot, and we're getting kind of tight on time. We got a panel to go to. It's like there's a barbecue place that's around the corner, quite literally in Boston, which is a surprising enough affair that you could go out of the hotel, walk around the corner, and in the middle of this little park, there's like a walk-up window style barbecue place. So
This was we ordered online.
yeah, no idea what the place was like.
Okay.
And Evan and I are like, well, you don't have to walk, Joe. Yeah, we'll go around the corner. We'll pick up our food.
Joe had a bum hoof, so we're like, okay, we'll order some barbecue. We'll walk over there. It'll take us whatever. Take us 15 minutes to get there. We literally exit the hotel, take 3 steps, and we're like, oh, here's the barbecue place. So we were just kind of sitting outside waiting, and that's when we met Larry.
Yeah, he's just sitting there on the phone talking to somebody else, and it was like this little outdoor courtyard, little brick patio kind of deal with a whole bunch of tables, and he's just a guy sitting over there talking on the phone. They were definitely open, but it wasn't like a crazy busy place.
Okay.
So we just sit down, figure, oh, cool, it's nice out, we'll wait. And he goes, are you the 345? It's like, must be. It's like, go up to the window and tell the lady in there, she'll get the food started for you.
Tell the lady I live with.
And he's just a very friendly gentleman. That not only did he start our food early, but we're sitting there idly, and he just like opened the window up. Like, okay, I have a stupid question. You guys got baked potatoes. Why do you want barbecue sauce with them? It's like, the app made us do it.
Which is true.
Like,
the app made us
okay.
select a barbecue sauce for our baked potatoes.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I didn't either, really.
Neither did I. He was confused though. He's like, "Why?" It's like, I'll give it to you, but like,
sauce.
He was a very friendly guy, though. Very funny guy. Super charismatic. And just a great business he had. Larry J's Barbecue in Boston. That's right at the seaside there.
Yep, right on D Street.
Right on
Larry
D
J's
Street.
Boston Barbecue.
Ask me about Larry J's.
He has
Super
a
nice guy.
fantastic mustache too.
Fantastic. We looked it up on social media later.
10
and I
out of
was
10
like,
mustache.
I didn't appreciate that mustache enough when we were there. Because he would just come to the window, and he would make like a little comment, and he'd close the window, and then he'd come back a minute later and open the window and make another little comment, just to make us laugh or whatever, and close the window as they're working on getting our order together.
I like to think that because of that interaction, I got the prime pick of the burn ends.
Good burn ends. Excellent barbecue. So anyway, what a way to start.
This is
Welcome to
Barbecue
the Ithacon
Cast.
Comic Shop Barbecue Cast.
We've got a lot of good food stories. So no Lucas today.
ate him.
Alex, Joe, and I went to PAX East.
We did.
Aaron, you went to Ithacon.
That's correct.
We figured we'd just talk a little bit of con stuff. Ithacon return. So
And the
actually,
NASCAR logo.
do we want to start with Ithacon? Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your weekend was?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I know what Alex's weekend was because I spent the whole weekend with him. So
Yeah, we can talk about some Ithacon. So yeah, I woke up pretty early on.
you want a document camera for that, or?
Oh yeah, we could take a look. This is just the Ithaca newspaper here that they had an article here about Ithacon, the next generation. I think this is just an article about people who have run Ithacon are having students kind of step into the organizational part a little bit more. But just talking about like how it got started and the people that were featured there. I didn't realize this until after I left, but this guy Mike Gold was there. He's one of the co-founders of First Comics, which published like Ms. Tree and Nexus and a bunch of really interesting independent stuff, like I think Whisper, which is the female ninja from the 1980s. Just a really cool comics company that didn't last for a super long time, but anytime I find any of those issues in a back issue bin or a dollar
Always
bin,
worth grabbing.
yeah, I've got a big collection of Whisper. I almost have that whole run. But that was cool. I would have gone over and chatted with him, but at the time, like it has his name big and it didn't say a lot of like who he was.
Yeah.
But that was cool that he was there. I did get a chance to talk to Don Simpson.
I am so jealous that you talked to Don Simpson. I was trying to explain this to Alex when you messaged. The Don Simpson. Shoot, I should have. I have some Don Simpson books at home too. I meant to bring them in.
I'll have to bring him in next time because I think I left him on my bookshelf. I grabbed everything but the Don Simpson.
A very, very cartoony guy. Kind of offshoot of that 60s, 70s indie underground comics, kind of brought that into almost like the 80s and 90s, I feel like. Very superhero themed, but not super mature. Like, I don't think that they're rated R comics, are they?
He's got some that are yay.
I feel like it's
Little
strong,
racy.
a strong,
Very racy.
a strong PG-13, but I don't feel like they're over the top. Although I haven't read his entire catalog, so I could certainly see him going.
Megaton Man, I think, is in that range. Borderlands or Border Worlds. Border Worlds is his sci-fi book that I picked up. I've always seen images from it, and the whole thing was there, and I scooped it up. He gave me a really good deal on. I got 3 things from him actually. And he kind of combined it. It was like I just bought 2, which was really awesome. And he did a sketch for me. I actually didn't bring those books. I'll have to bring them next week. To show you the sketch he did in my Megaton Man book and Border Worlds. But he did a variant cover for...
He has a style that's very reminiscent of, is it Ben Udland, the guy who did The Tick?
Well, I mean, his stuff, he was doing stuff before Ben Edlund.
The overly muscular, big, strong chin, again, the guys in the image, they did exaggerated things, but he did like the super exaggerated, it's kind of a parody.
Yeah, he was super nice too. I get the sense from him that he was very much like a working class type guy. Like he can draw. Like,
is he from
like a maniac?
Ithaca? I feel like he's a Pittsburgh guy.
I think he is a Pittsburgh guy. I think he teaches at a college down there now, and that's like how he gets his health insurance and all that stuff. Because I watched an interview with him not too long ago.
How old is he?
I don't know. He's got to be 50s, 60s, probably.
It would make sense if he was, pushing stuff in the 80s.
Well, I was wondering, like, is he really old? Like, is he 80 years old or something like that? But because in my mind, I feel like he's like a 60-year-old, 62-year-old guy, but I have no idea.
I mean, he was still moving around doing his own thing. I got there and Isaac Bidwell. Have you met Isaac Bidwell? Yeah.
Have I met Isaac Bidwell? I don't know. I know who he is though.
Yeah, he was there too, and I walked in the door, and I've known him for years and years, and done a few shows with him before, and I was like, hey, how's it going? So I was chatting with him, and he was like, hey, let's go check out Don Simpson. So we went over,
Dandy Don Simpson,
and we were chatting with him and like looking through his stuff. I mean, what a great artist, Don Simpson. Very underrated, extremely underrated.
Even though he's got that very exaggerated superhero style, I feel like his anatomy is like ridiculously good. Like it's super cartoony, but like he really understands how a figure works.
Yeah, the Megaton Man kind of veers more into that kind of caricature kind of style, like the exaggeration. But you got to know how to draw a body before you start to exaggerate it, and it still looks and feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Borderlands, or not Borderlands, Border Worlds. Oh my gosh, it's gonna trip me up the whole time. But that, like the female character is the main character of that, and even though it's sci-fi, it's still much more adheres to kind of more realistic proportions throughout that. And they're also both like black and white with halftone, which is like my sweet spot for art. I just love the look of that. But that was great getting to chat with Don, and he had Pink Lemonade Holiday Grab Bag, which is a book that I've always tried to get, but for whatever reason it eluded me. I don't think it was ever released through to Aaron Don Simpson 2022.
Wait, so Don Simpson drew that? He didn't
do this cover. He did another variant cover.
That looks like his stuff, though.
Does it? It could be. It does look like it's.
That's Don Simpson.
Oh, okay. I think he was trying to work in the vein of Nick Cognetti a little bit. I mean, obviously that's who did this piece. So hey, I finally got this to complete the
Nick
pink.
Cagnetti's so good.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen his stuff?
No.
He does a book called Pink Lemonade. It's very much in that the color stylings of Aaron, like the neon, very bright, very, it pops, a lot of pink. He's one of these indie guys that, like, I'm surprised hasn't broken through to a larger degree. I mean, I think he has a following. I think when he puts out books, he's very successful. But, like, I feel like he's a guy that he's a young guy too, right? He's like 25 or 26.
Yeah, he's younger than me by a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've communicated with him a little bit. I sent him all of my books. He actually drew Wesley the Robot as part of an Indie Comics team up thing at the end of a few years ago.
2022 or 2020.
2020, and he did a great job drawing Wesley. He did a Kickstarter recently, and one of the upper tiers of it, because I'm an adult man now with a job, so if I decide to spend money on something, I can without like imploding my world. You could get a sketch cover done by Nick Cognetti as one of the rewards of this, and I said to myself, yes, I will have that.
I will treat myself.
I'll treat myself to this.
Treat yourself.
So who knows when I'll get it, but I supported that.
At least Kickstarters for books, they have a tendency to, get shipped out reasonably.
Yeah, well, when I finally get to the Kickstarter of the full Wesley the Dark Ages book, it'll mostly be done, pretty much. That'll basically be a pre-order.
Yeah, well, that's so in the realm of Kickstarter is a tangent for a moment. And haven't got to meet Rob Doherty from the company that Randy works for.
Wise Wizard.
Wise Wizard Games. Previously White Wizard Games. But
good change.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a Gandalf thing from forever ago. But yeah,
yes.
Name convention wise, it aged poorly. But yes. So like primarily when they get their Kickstarter stuff ready, the game is already fully past development. And they've gotten their pre-production stuff already, so they're waiting to see volume. So, like the lead out time is significantly shorter than somebody who's potentially like maybe trying to bankroll themselves through a Kickstarter. Like, I have an idea, I've been working on it, but I need money to complete it, which can work, but it certainly it might take something that extra year. You're agreeing to a Kickstarter and it's like, yeah, hopefully fulfillment by the following whatever quarter.
Yeah, it can be kind of a grab bag. But I do want to highlight this one thing. So I did I did this sketch a while ago.
I see it.
I got published in there.
Hey, there's Aaron Z. Lee Pink Lemonade.
Yeah, after Nick Cognetti, Pens and Pedals.
You made it. You made it in there.
I made it in there.
Come on,
Ed Piscor. Nick Cognetti published me.
Here, we'll
put my Red Room art in there too.
Hey, you want to try to see if we can get Lucas to call in for a minute?
We could try.
We're gonna experiment here. Lucas, do you want to try to call in and we'll see what happens?
Well,
do you want me to just keep talking about?
Yeah,
Ithacon?
let's just keep talking about Ithacon until we can figure out if Lucas can call in.
I got to bring in those Don Simpson books next time. They were bigger books, which is why they're separate from these, because these were small enough to still fit inside of my little carrying case that I had my own books in. But this is another cool thing that I made a connection with. I haven't had a chance to read these yet. Can we switch over to that doc cam?
Yeah.
So we've got, let's see, can we go off higher? Hey, there we go. So this is a book called Ithaca, and it's got a Q in place of the C there. And what it is a noir crime story set in the 1920s. And they do these two writers were there. Let's see, Watson, Chiecci, and Gattoni. They had two people were tabling there, and I got a chance to chat with them a little bit. And they funded every single one of these issues with their Kickstarter. They're both alumni of Ithaca College, and they have their fourth Kickstarter for issue number 4 and 5, I think, coming up. So that's kind of a cool story. I always gravitate towards the small press and the people who are making stuff versus like not that there's anything wrong with the retailers, but I want to talk to people who are making stuff.
Hey, we're gonna take a quick detour, real quick. Lucas, are you there?
I'm here.
You're here.
Oh my gosh!
Can you hear me?
We love how your nose is on screen, and
Wow.
that's it.
It's like Mr. Potato Head.
That's what I'm going for.
This is like an early 2000s webcam shot.
Yeah, I'm curious if people can actually hear you. I think it looks like it's coming through. It looks like your audio's a little
I see it on
quiet.
the soundboard.
Wow, this is very exciting. Lucas is
That's
not
just
here
the
because
ear. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you guys can hear me.
he's got a new cat.
It looks like you guys.
This
can
is
hear me.
this is the worst shot I've ever seen in my entire life. By the way, and I love how you haven't adjusted it at all.
What's your expertise again, Lucas? Like, what's your discipline that you study?
Photo editing.
What is it?
What is the discipline that you study?
Oh, cinema and screen studies. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what
Okay,
they teach.
just-
This is
just
what they
checking.
teach at school.
Can we see your cat? We're gonna hang up on you.
Yes. There she is.
What's
In
your
all her glory.
What's your cat's name?
Her name's Maddie.
Yeah.
She's 8 years old, and she's a
An
sweetheart.
elder cat. Okay. I thought you got like a kitten.
No, she's a little older. She's very, very sweet. She does like to wake me up at 4 or 5 in the morning with her little box, but I forgive her. I won't hold it against her. Well, other
This
than
is
that,
very
she's-
exciting. We've never done anything like this before.
Cat cam.
We've never had a cat. We've had a dog on the podcast before. We've had Tootsie on, but never a cat. So this is experimental, groundbreaking podcast territory.
Expert cat tracking versus Lucas's just the top of his face.
Yeah, I know Lucas, not a great selfie guy, but can follow the cat around very, very well. So, where did the cat come from?
She was one of my sister's friends, and they had dogs, and they just didn't feel like they were giving her enough attention.
So they abandoned
And-
the cat.
No,
I mean, it's what I would do.
but yeah, I was looking to get a cat in the fall when I got into my new place and got settled in. But the opportunity arose. I said, "Okay, I'll take her," and she's been a delight so far. I've had her for when did I get her? Last Thursday, I think. So,
believe you.
You know, few days now, and
It looks like you two get along well.
oh yeah, I love her.
What a
I love her. She's
disgusting
my
foot that
child,
is.
right?
Oh my god. Look at those white legs. Oh gosh. Well, that's it. That's where this ends. Lucas, thanks for calling in. We're
I need
glad
new
you have a
socks.
cat.
If anyone wants to buy me new white Nike socks, please.
All right.
All of my white Nike
You
socks.
hear
keep
how
it in mind.
picky he is? They have to be white Nike socks. What if we got you orange, like Adidas socks?
I will burn them.
All right. Well, that's it. We're gonna hang up on you. The hole in the sock. Even John.
Show off my new pin I got too from you.
Huh?
I want to show off my new pin.
Oh, we also got Lucas a cat pin at PAX. It's a
Yeah.
cat with ramen.
Right on my backpack.
Bam.
Very nice. I'm a
Beautiful.
cat.
Beautiful.
She's a delight though. I'm gonna bring her. I'm gonna train her on a leash. She needs to lose.
All right.
some
We
weight.
lost
She
your
has
video. We're
belly.
gonna hang up on you. That was good though. Thank you.
Hold on.
right.
But,
Oh, he's still there.
Oh, how do we get rid of him? I
Yeah.
don't know how to.
hold on.
You added them, and now we can't. Now this is it.
can
This
you
is
hear
all
me?
we get.
This is our life now.
We,
Can you hear me?
No.
Even when the podcast is over, Lucas will be in our minds, just like we'll hear hearing him speak.
I'm gonna train.
There it is. We got rid of him. But let's go back to Ithacon. We'll go back to our document camera. Thank you for calling in, Lucas. It was very exciting.
Congrats on the cat.
Yeah. Why is that level weird?
I don't know. But you want to head back to the doc cam?
Yeah, let's
You
go
see
back
what
to
you
the
mean?
document camera here.
Yeah, so this is a 3-issue series. They've got 3 issues so far of literally a comic set in the town of Ithaca, a murder mystery.
Here, we're going to give one of these to Alex so he can take a look.
But I'm getting it back though. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
It's my running gag. I don't ever believe anything's coming
I
back.
could just hold on to it indefinitely.
I mean, you could. There's probably very little I could do to stop you from doing that. But yeah, so this looks interesting. The art looks good. I like the kind of muted colors, a lot of flat color, open line. Kind of maybe like a little bit of a Cal Arts type style.
What's Cal Arts?
Just kind of like open line, big eyes, like kind of cartoony.
It almost looks like they went for the old sepia tone in the whole thing.
Yes, I think that is very accurate. But I can't wait to dig into this a little bit. Anytime there's a creator there who's making comics, like Kevin Delgado was out there too.
I saw it. I'm friends with Kevin Delgado on the Facebook now, and I saw that he was out there as well.
Yeah. It was kind of a
Kevin Delgado does a
tough stuff.
Tough stuff.
Tough stuff. A book about a cat.
That goes to rehab.
Yes, and he's got a robotic arm, lots of action.
He had to
Like,
save spring break at one point. There's a lot of stuff going on with that cat.
Yeah,
And with Kevin.
Super nice guy. A very busy guy. Always working on all kinds of stuff. It was nice to catch up with him, kind of chat with him a little bit.
He was a gentleman that we sat next to at Rice, the Rochester Independent Comics Expo.
Gotcha.
Who I know that Aaron was very happy to, like, right towards the end, not towards the end of the convention, but a few hours in, Kevin goes to Aaron, he goes, I know who you are. I've seen your stuff before. And Aaron was very satisfied by that, like, oh, I'm one of the guys. He knows me.
Yeah, I didn't want to, like, jump in with that.
Aaron
wanted it to be more natural.
Aaron immediately was like, I have no idea who you are.
No, I
and he
didn't
was
say that.
immediately put him down.
I know who he is. Because his Tough Stuff Kickstarter was very successful. He actually made a VHS tape box for like as a tier
That's fun.
thing for
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so he does cool stuff. He had some really nice displays. He was working on some sketch covers. He's doing a cover for another book that's coming out. He's just always
He had
working.
some kind of holographic cover that he did for some other publisher. It's like an alternate cover. And it was going for like $150 on eBay, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if it was selling for that, but he was very stoked that, like, hey, I did this random alternate cover for a smaller publisher. And yes, it's the speculator market that's driving up the price, but it's also like, hey, that's my stuff. Like, that's cool. Like, that people are willing to be, chase after his holographic cover.
I got to meet. There's an owner of a comic shop out in Buffalo called 3D Comics.
I hear that's your favorite comic shop too.
No. I just met the owner. He bought a couple comics. I brought a couple extra boxes of just comics because you never know what people are gonna look for.
Yeah.
But I talked with him for a little bit, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the one who does like the cover." So I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he bought Wesley #1 from me too. So that was kind of nice to make those connections. It wasn't like a super busy con. Like I'm sure you guys saw way more people at PAX, but it was like a steady run. There's people coming through, people who are interested in like listening to me talk, and
Cool.
it's kind of funny. Like I think most of the big purchases I had people make from me were from like either teachers or people who worked in education, because that's part of my spiel, because it's who I am. You just kind of throw everything out there and then see like what people respond to.
Yeah.
And then you're just talking about teaching and like like being in a school, what that could be like, and then people are like, you know what, I'm going to buy all these Wesley books from you. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight with you.
Especially in the college town, it feels like an easy in when you're at the campus, and an amount of teachers would likely end up there and then the cross section of comics.
It's a great little event. Like if you're a person who makes comics, you get the table for free, which
that's
if they take
pretty
it,
great.
So.
That's cool.
So like I bought stuff from Don Simpson. I bought these books
Dandy
here.
Don Simpson.
I bought some other stuff from some
let's look at those real
some
quick.
retailers. They had some,
Oh, you got your Night Force.
yeah, they had some 50-cent comics. Yeah, my wife got me this because she knows I love Gene Colan, and this is Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. I think it's the final project they worked on. They were very popular when they did Tomb of Dracula for Marvel in the 70s.
Stuff's beautiful.
Yeah, I just love Gene Colan's stuff. It is amazing. And what's funny is I can talk to like the older guys about art, and this guy came up to me. His name was Aaron, ironically, and he was saying like I like to talk with my friends about artists, and like when you look at the art and then like discuss like who inked it. And I was like, and he's like, there's very few people left who could take a look at artwork and guess who inked it. And I was like, you know what, I'm one of those people too. So like, because I could go back and forth talking about Gene Colan and these older artists and stuff. And I did
So
get
actually, who's inking this?
this is Bob Smith.
I do not know. I mean, Bob Smith, very generic name, but I do not know a Bob Smith in comics.
I don't either. I only know him in connection to inking Gene Colan. I mean, his stuff, it's much more like kind of pen, I feel like. There is a brush in here, but there's a lot of...
This is very, like, manga-y.
I mean, yeah, this is 83, so...
That's weird.
Astro Boy and Speed Racer.
I guess that's around then, yeah.
all that
It's just
stuff
a very
is around.
manga-looking panel.
Yeah, I was talking to this gentleman, and we were just talking about how like Gene Colan was so cinematic. Like, is there even nowadays? Like, if he was doing a book now, I would definitely be buying that. Just because everything has motion, like the panel layouts are interesting. There's like it just moves. The story just moves right along. I highly recommend Night Force too. It's reprinted right now, in a big hardcover collection. Because you think it's one thing, but it's not actually that thing. It's actually something else. Like I don't want to give away too much, but very very fun book. Kind of it delves into horror and it like is it like it's like, am I a superhero book? Am I a horror book? It's kind of like neither. But very very satisfying story, and I just love seeing the original prints because I have it on the glossy paper with the remastered color, and it's just not the same as getting it on that nice newsprint. Just looks so nice on that. I just got a few of those.
What's your final book there? Oh, I guess
the-
I'll flip through Electra real quick.
Yeah, so this is actually by Frank Miller. This is What If Electra Had Lived. He wrote it and drew it. So,
Oh, Frank Miller and all his craziness.
you know, I appreciate his layouts and his high contrast stuff. Like more and more I'm kind of getting into that. He's going to be somebody I circle back to and look at some more stuff from. He's got a lot of good tricks.
A lot of people's first introduction to Frank Miller is either Sin City or Batman. And there's a fair amount of other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not super well versed in it, obviously, but that's the easy in is like check out Sin City or one of the Batman books that he did.
I really liked he did a book called Ronin for
I remember Ronin,
for
yep.
DC. I actually picked it up here years and years ago. 112 East Bridge Street, the comic shop.
Shout out to the comic shop.
And I think it was one of the original printings. It was kind of a beat up copy, but it was sold for cover price, so it was a really good deal for what it was. It's a sci-fi story about it's like the far future and also feudal Japan.
Yeah.
So it's like this guy's either like a science experiment or he's like the spirit of this feudal Japanese Ronin come back in the future, and it's ambiguous, but like that's a really cool book. Like I'd read Dark Knight Returns, because it's one of those seminal books in comics, and it was good, But I'm not a huge Batman Superman guy. It wasn't really a huge Daredevil guy, but like the independent stuff that he does, like Ronin was entirely his concept. Sin City,
Yep.
I do enjoy. But it's kind of the weirder stuff by Frank Miller that resonates with me. But anyway, this
Aaron, you got 30 seconds here to do Carnival, and then we're going to talk about PAX a little bit, too, I think.
Okay. Yeah, this was a book that I bought off of Brandon Whipple, who was the guy next to me this time around. Another illustrator.
Who is that?
Brandon Whipple. He's from Ithaca, so he was just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But he was an editor on this project. He's a nice guy. He's another guy who just had a daughter. His daughter is 10 months old. My daughter is 3 months old. So we're able to talk about that a little bit.
Young dad life.
Yeah, he's only a couple of years older than me. But he was selling this anthology. He's like, I'm not trying to sell this to you. And I was like, oh, I like anthologies. I'll buy that.
Lucas is asking in the chat, Aaron, I know you like that one manga that Frank Miller said he was inspired by, and the name is correct, Lucas. You're pretty close. It's Lone Wolf and Cub.
Lone Wolf Club. I like Lone Wolf Club.
Lone Wolf Club is kind of funny, but it's Lone Wolf and Cub.
Oh, this has got some good stuff.
Clone Wolf Cub.
I haven't even really taken a look through this. I just saw what it was and just kind of went for it. But he was talking about how because I made my own comic, and so we were talking about that and like how much work that is. And he's like, well, I did a short story in this that's a comic, so this is kind of his contribution. Kind of reminds me of like Stinky Cheese Man or something like that.
Stinky Cheese Man.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
And it's a fun style. I think it's very much like it could easily be a children's book. Like this would be a good children's book compared to because there's a lot of children's books out there that are not really that exciting or cool. And this I love his like kind of rendered style, like a rendered textured style. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to really look through this, but there's some artwork in here that is pretty cool. I think this was a Kickstarter that they did. So they just put a bunch of stories together and
Nice.
Monster Carnival Comics Anthology, a little horror anthology. Is perfect for me.
Jonathan says, I need to pick up Lone Wolf and Cub. You do. Actually, I really should own a copy of that. You have a copy of that, right?
I do have a
wife
copy.
buy a copy for you or something?
Yes. She got my brother-in-law and me a
Humongous
copy of it.
omnibus.
It is. It's a
Okay.
humongous
I was
thing.
gonna say like
And we were going to read it together, but we haven't done that yet.
So Ithacon, how many, this is your second or third time doing it, or?
This is the first time I did
Oh.
Ithacon. Yeah. So because I got my first book done, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get back into tabling, because I had done like prints and T-shirts and stuff like that prior to. But then pandemic happened, and
When was that?
I don't know, 1940 or something. I think it was right after World War II.
Yep. This was the Spanish flu.
How old are you? So that was the
as
old
old
man
as
here.
time.
Tale as old as time.
Me and Angela Lansbury, who've been around a long time.
would you go back?
I would. Well, because it's like zero for the for
Yeah.
tabling. So like anything you make is like profit. I mean, there's gas to get down there. The programming is pretty cool. I couldn't get away from my table to do a ton of it, but Ahoy was down there. They did a talk.
Ahoy is the comic publisher based out of Syracuse with Frank Carmuso as one of the head comics wranglers. Shout out to Frank.
Yeah, there was also a talk that the Ithaca people did, Ithaca with a Q, the murder mystery story.
Yep.
They did a talk on kickstarting and crowdfunding. I didn't get a chance to see that one either because I was back home. We were doing something else on Sunday. I can't remember what. But it seemed like good programming. Good amount of people there. Don Simpson, super legit.
Dandy Don Simpson. Shout out to Dandy Don.
There's some other people up there too that were like legit comics artists and writers, and they had some literary writers around the outside. You have to go up 2 flights of stairs to load your stuff in. I mean, maybe next time I just take the elevator. But you know, you do it once and you learn about what the space is like and how to adapt.
It's the notoriously difficult thing of just a convention in general, regardless of whether you're an attendee or an exhibitor. You kind of run into some of that as an exhibitor. You're like, oh, there's some cool stuff here that I'd love to go do, or like some people that I'd like to go talk to, but you don't always have that opportunity.
It was slow enough that I could do quite a bit of that.
If you can get up and move around, it's nice because you can chit chat with whoever else is slow and kind of, you know, you get your inroads wherever you can.
The trick is if you get up and talk to somebody, inadvertently somebody will come and start looking through your stuff.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way you drive sales, though. Is that if it's slow, start to walk away from your table because immediately someone will come over and want to talk to you.
It's the best setup I've had at my table because I actually brought along my book of prints, and that was in the middle of it. I have it's meant to be like a toilet paper holder, but it's my display with my name on it with stuff, you know, because I want to equate my work with high quality product.
With pooping.
That's right. And then I got one of those little plastic displays, like the little multi-tier thing. So I had that on the other side, my book of prints in the middle. And people would come and look through. People, like my boombox diver did very well. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
But sold quite a few of those. I sold an Eclipse one with all the kids wearing like the little Eclipse glasses. Sold a few postcards. Sold a lot of comics. Sold a lot of my black and white Creep of the Crop zine because it's, you know, in that sweet spot of like we don't really know who I am, but like you want to support with something. So cool. I would definitely go back. It was slow enough. It was personable enough, and it's local enough.
Let's talk about an event that's far away and not local and very busy, and that's PAX. Alex, you've done PAX several times as not as a volunteer, as a
both. Like I've like paid volunteer through Wise Wizard Games, doing demos, helping set up the booth, break the booth down, that whole affair. Very chaotic. Evan kind of got a taste of that. This was this year was busy, but not in a way like it was a good first year for him.
Actually, so what is? I think people know PAX. And actually, I tagged PAX in the stream, so people, if you're looking for information on PAX, what is PAX? Can you give me a little bit of a history about it? Because
I mean, Joe's your history buff on PAX because he knows like down to like the first year when they switched convention halls and everything else. And
I teach about PAX in my class.
Do you really?
Yep,
that's fun.
7th grade curriculum.
What do you teach?
PAX is the Penny Arcade Expo put on by Penny Arcade, which is Mike Krahulik and Jerry Holkin's longstanding webcomic. They've printed a various, you know, degree of their web comics as well as some of their other IPs. You know, Jerry got into a little more of, you know, publishing his own writing with like Lexcalibur. But it continuously grew and grew and grew to the point where now it's just this thing that exists. And Mike doesn't go to the show anymore, but Jerry does for, I believe, all of them. Like, I don't even think Mike goes to West anymore. But you have PAX West, which used to be PAX Main or something like that. There used to be a PAX Main, a PAX Dev, and a PAX East, which was added like 2 or 3 years in. And now there's a PAX South. For a year or two, there was a PAX Australia, which they may not go back to. It's kind of hard to say, and it's not my place to say. But it was a lofty endeavor for them. You know, they didn't. There's many strips that they wrote, kind of complaining about that like 18-hour plane ride that's uninterrupted, and like how much it screws with you. And like they have to go out a couple weeks early to make sure everything gets set up, and then they're there for the whole time, and then like a little bit after to break down and make sure things are good. But East this year, they didn't have Sony or Microsoft, so like a little bit of the floor space was trimmed down, which is fine. There were still a couple big cool booths. Tiny Build had this big booth. They had I don't remember what the one game was, but it was mostly advertising their new Hello Neighbor 2, I think.
The Wilson POV game from Home Improvement.
Yes, yeah, where you're just like peeking over the fence, and then you don't want to show your face because then people would know that you're.
Is that what Lucas was doing today? Was playing that game when he got on the.
He was playing Hello Neighbor.
He was playing Hello Neighbor.
That's right.
Maybe. But I had like a giant inflatable spider, and like they had like this cool little carnival setup. I'll show you the pictures after. They'd be terrible to show on a document cam through my phone.
Yeah. So get them out. No, I'm just
kidding. Yeah. And a few other booths, Gearbox was there with their Wonderland stuff, and there were a lot of other developers there, indie guys. The indie guys have gotten more and more market share of the expo floor.
That's cool. I like that.
Because Mike and Jerry got so in, they're like gamers from long ago, and as time has gone on, it's like, it started with little stuff like Ori and the Blind Forest, where it's like, it's just this fun little game on Xbox, and then some people would show up to exhibit at PAX, and it's like, we're working on this fun game for Steam, and then they gave more and more space.
What is Ori and the Blind Forest?
Trying to think of what I guess the closest way would be to describe it as a Metroidvania. It's a little platformer where you're going through a colorful world. It's like a little spirit. There's a sequel. Like I'm sure the kids that you teach may be familiar with the newer one, but the older one is old enough now where it's questionable whether or not.
Is it a side scroller?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yep. Just 2D kind of art.
As I get older,
if you're familiar with Hollow Knight at all?
Nope.
Okay. That's another one that I think you'd like the art in some of those games where they're side scrollers, they're all 2D, but they have like these very colorful and
imaginative.
Definitely.
I like that.
There's a lot of depth to the backgrounds, even though they're just 2D. So they manage like some of that stuff that you wish Super Nintendo looked like when we were kids.
Yeah.
Where you could imagine where if they had a little more processing power, you could have done some more shadows and a little more color and depth of field and things like that.
That was some of my favorite stuff in the like as a platform kind of got to the end and that people understood what the limitations were. Then they could really push the graphics in cool ways because they knew what they could do and what they couldn't do, so they could really push what they could do.
Definitely.
I was thinking of like Super Mario Brothers Yoshi's Island. That was a hit for me. One of my favorite games, I think.
There's someone annoying in the chat saying, Alex, I just beat Hollow Knight. I love it. Can't wait for Silk Song.
Yeah, people have been waiting a while for Silk Song, and it's the sequel to it.
Was that like the Silk Road?
No.
Which Silk Road?
The only one that I can think of.
The one in history?
Yeah.
The one through Asia?
I was thinking of the Silk Road from the internet from recent history where
you could buy drugs and kill a man.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that you were talking about the historical context one, but Evan and I kind of were on the same page there.
We know the dirty one.
Yeah.
So PAX East this year, there was no PAX East. It was PAX East online last year. Is that how it went?
For the last 2 years. So they had like a whole set of panels and panelists, but even Evan and I experienced that. We went to a QA panel with Chris Straub and Jerry Holkins, and they were talking about how weird it was to just finally be back in person. And like, Jerry very early on in the QA like made a comment about, he's like, even the little titters of laughter like made him feel so much more elated. Because when you're doing 2 years of virtual paneling, you're sitting there by yourself in your room looking at a Zoom call. You have no interaction with the audience. You have no idea if any of your jokes are landing. Like,
especially they're so humor driven in these panels that like Yeah, not every joke is going to land, but when you're sitting in front of a computer like we are now, it's like there's no if I can get Aaron or you to laugh, I feel like, well, that my joke landed. But if you're in a room by yourself talking into a computer trying to have fun and entertain people, gosh, that's got to be super difficult.
And these are all people who have like very publicly stated, some of their issues with like anxiety and, other like qualms of public speaking that you'd think that, people who have the convention with 50,000 people in attendance don't have anymore, but they're just nerds from back in Washington State that that it's like they've been propelled into this forefront of nerd gaming multimedia culture and have just had to adapt. But
That is funny to me because I think we're talking about who was DMing Acquisitions Inc. that left, and was there some kind of anxiety issue amongst some of the DMs I was reading? The larger that became, no, okay,
No.
I'm totally wrong then.
Okay, so the way that went is in the beginning.
Acquisitions Inc. we saw on Saturday night, which is a D&D celebrity, let's say nerd culture D&D group. And they were tremendous. They were so funny. I laughed for 3 hours straight. It was great. But there was a history with some of the DMs they're changing.
So Acquisitions Incorporated was Jerry, Mike, Will Wheaton.
For real?
In the very beginning. No, not at this one. In the very beginning. And Scott Kurtz, who's
Who
another.
they didn't bring back for Picard season 3.
No,
why,
they didn't.
Why did they do that?
But that was like the original cast, and Chris Perkins, who's a developer for Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Crow.
Of the Crow.
Wait, now we got to do our own parody.
The Deep Crow.
Write that down.
He's like a rules guy for Dungeons and Dragons, so he's kind of like a celebrity DM. He had his own, I think it's Dice Camera Action, which had a pretty big following and like an equal number of like higher end. Like middle, I don't even know how to say that because like D&D streaming has become such a big thing in the last handful of years. But he did it for a number of years, and they mostly did it at PAX West, which at the time was like PAX Main or whatever.
So I'm imagining like a Whose Line Is It Anyway combined with Dungeons and Dragons. Was it that type of?
With Chris in charge, yeah. Like there wasn't a whole lot of combat. They have a loose story arc that they are aware of, and I believe because they do like a warm-up session, they kind of are alluded to like, here's where we want it to end. So you don't know how it's going to get there or exactly what's going to happen, but you know that you start here, we're going to end with Dragon Fight. So,
That's kind of how I write
players,
stories.
So the players aren't like surprised by we're up against the wall of time. Why are we suddenly like, being sped through all our silly jokes and kind of having to curtail the normal interaction stuff? Because it was all live play.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, when Chris was in charge, they'd bring out more elaborate set pieces. And then they'd start to, dress as their characters on stage. And that went on for quite a few years. I think he did like 2 or maybe 3 or 4 like major story arcs, but because it's punctuated by convention, you're talking about in some cases these guys were playing a year apart.
Okay,
but that's why
I was curious when the last time you think that group played.
I think they did stuff for the virtual. I think they just Zoom called it. But then they started to do it for everything. So like they do. The essentially like the red shirt, they'd come to East and maybe some of the guys from the main cast couldn't fly out from the West Coast or didn't want to or didn't have time, whatever. So they'd grab like, at one point they had Morgan Webb from G4 and like some other, they had Pat Rothfuss in The Name of the Wind, big kind of fantasy writer. But they just started grabbing people and like they'd continue the story in some capacity, whether it was at South or East. But eventually Chris Perkins leaves, and then Jeremy Crawford, who's another developer for Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Crow.
Wizards of the Crow. Wizards of the Deep Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Caca.
Yes. And he's a little more punishing. Like they're into combat a little more. They have to pay attention to the rules a little more. They didn't get away with as many shenanigans. Still a lot of fun, but just a lot more punishing nature to their gameplay. And now they're to the point where either Jeremy doesn't have time or whatever. So one of the usual players from Ithacon, Chris Straub, who's also like a friend of theirs that draws the comics sometimes, he DM'd this last one, and it was pretty funny. It was, a glorified old-timey simulation of a computer. Like, they were yanked out of time from their normal story, so they didn't have to interrupt like the flow of it, and they just like did this weird time shunt.
Time Shunt.
It was very fun, though.
This fall on TBS. Time Shunt.
Brought to you by Wizards of the Deep Crow.
Wizards of the Deep Crow.
Caca.
So PAX, I had never gone before. I really have hardly gone to conventions before, with the exception of maybe like Rice with you, and maybe like one other time I've gone to something. I've been to the Boston Convention Center before because I did the car show there back in 2020 with my brother when I was debating buying this comic store. And I remember walking around and just talking to him about like business ideas as we looked at fancy, shiny new cars and things like that. Hold on, where are we? Even though there was a lighter crowd this year that they've kind of lost the past 2 years because of the plague, I thought it was great. I thought the crowd was great. It was just so fun to people watch. I like the fact that, there's a million people there, but you also had a little bit of room to move around. It wasn't like people were on top of you.
I like that.
So that was good. You could walk to the corner or to the side, and there was, you had your space to breathe.
Definitely not common.
What's that?
Definitely not common.
But for my first experience, I thought it was great. We got a chance to try some games out. We were doing some of the Wise Wizard. What was that called? Robot Quest.
Robot Quest. It's the one that's currently in Kickstarter for them, and it combines like head-to-head board game style fighting, but with deck building with it. So kind of like a lot of their offerings, Star Realms, Hero Realms, where you have like a shared deck of stuff that you're using your original resources to buy and add to your deck. And it's like a sequential build. But then it has this element where maybe you have a turn where you need to move and go fight Evan's robot. Well, you have to use some of your resources that you would buy cards with to do that. So it's kind of this push-pull of how do I maximize my action economy to get the most victory points out of it?
Yes, everybody has a cute little robot, and you're on this, chessboard type thing. That's it's like what was that show, BattleBots or something, where you're the little robots in the the Comedy Central did it, I think, where these engineers would build robots that would fight each other.
It's still on the air.
Is it? Who was doing? There's an MMA guy doing commentary for a while. What's his name? Out of Boston as well. It doesn't matter. But you have your cute little robots. You start with some energy cards, right? And you start with energy cards and a hammer. Your only weapon is a hammer. Okay. And you can spend some energy cards to move, to get closer, to use your hammer to attack Alex, or you can spend your energy cards, your battery cards, to buy additional. I want a chainsaw. I want a Tesla coil to supercharge my weapons and things like that. So, yeah, the fun strategy of strategizing movement versus building your vehicle up versus fighting the other robots that were in the little arena, and then when your robot dies, it just respawns in another part of the arena. And you start building to fight. It's called. Jonathan's asking. It's called Robot Quest, correct? Yep. And I believe it's not out yet. I believe there's a Kickstarter. It's in a Kickstarter, Jonathan. I think you know about Kickstarter.
I don't know if it's available anymore through Kickstarter because they were allowing late backing at the convention if you demoed. They'd basically give you a code to get into the back end to do a late back. I believe from what Randy and then Debbie told me that it's supposed to be like later this year anyway. So as long as there's no more insane shipping snafus.
It seemed like they had a final product there. There was a couple things on the cards that were like, ignore this. We've changed the wording a little bit, but it seemed like they have 95% of our product.
Like they have to get all the final prints of the book. Like I'm pretty sure that Randy told me that the proofs for everything are done. They just have to get it sent to the printer to get their final copy to give it a once over. Because there's a lot of that, through like knowing him, you get to experience how does a big commercial product get put together and like make it out into the mass market, and some of the weird just nonsense. Like I've been to their little warehousing space before. And there's just piles of stuff that like they can't sell because it's just misprints or junk they got from the printer. And you can always demo it. You can always bring it to a convention and like put a piece of tape over the top and be like, this isn't what this actually is.
What were some of the other fun things that you did at PAX?
We went and watched a couple of games that are supposed to be out in the next few months. The new Ninja Turtles beat 'em up. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is like a rehash of the original beat 'em up from the 90s.
The arcade game?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
And it's just fantastic. It's real nice cleaned up graphics. But still a fun Ninja Turtles feel. You have Master Splinter as a playable character as well as April now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I walked by it. They had two different places that were playing it. I walked by it at the beginning, and I thought that they were just playing the old school Ninja Turtles arcade game. But it did look cleaner. And to which Joe goes, "Oh, that's just they've remade it." And it's literally they had the first two levels available for play. You could wait in a long line. And there was two turtles you could play as. You could play as Splinter, and you could play as April. So those were the four characters. So I'm sure
Which two turtles?
I don't recall.
Donatello and
Yes, one was Donatello.
I believe Leonardo.
But I think
have been Mike.
You know,
I don't
it was just a limited. Like, here's a tasting of the first two levels with a couple characters. So I imagine there's going to be a lot more playable characters, obviously. But it was the exact same thing as the '90s arcade game, but just super clean. But you know, that same like
Fighting Bebop at the end of the first
16-bit
level.
modeling. Even the cutscene was not a parody of the old cutscene, but like you could just tell that they took the cutscene and they cleaned it up and they made it a little bit. They paid homage to it, but also kind of had a little bit of a twist.
It was just like the still frame and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the type at the bottom, like.
Yeah, but it just. Oh man, I ditched these guys at one point. They were watching some other gameplay going on, and I went back downstairs to pick up a few things for Martin and Lucas. And I found myself standing in front of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing again. I was just like, oh, I want this game so badly. It's just, it's all of the nostalgia just cleaned up and just tweaked to make it a little bit more fun for old people like me. It was great.
So when Evan says he ditched us, he bailed on and it's fine because he didn't really care. But he bailed on us watching Fire Tower, which is a really fun board game. But it was for round 3 of the Omegathon, which is like this big multi-day event. It's basically a mega game that happens throughout the weekend. They take something like 32 or 64 competitors total, and they just like randomly mix them, and you go, here you go, this is your team for the weekend. And it's like 2-person teams, and they play whatever strange games, and it's one game a day.
And it could be board games, it can be video games.
Anything.
They played cornhole one time.
So the final round one year was cornhole. One year was crokinole, which is just a game that nobody's ever heard of, but if you saw a board, you'd go, okay. They had the head-to-head Pac-Man machine one time, which is something that I only remember from a couple like random arcades growing up. That was wild.
Head-to-head Pac-Man. Is that like where you get 2 Pac-Man, one
yeah,
field?
I don't remember that at all.
It's Pac-Man and another
Pax-Man.
Pac-Man playing at the
Pax-Man.
same time on the same map with ghosts. So you can both eat the ghosts. You can power up and eat the other Pac-Man.
I've played this before.
Yeah, it's wild.
I wonder if they have it at Swoleburger in Rochester. I wonder if that's where
I
I
don't know.
played it.
I would. You know what? I bet they do because they had every video game, arcade game there possible. There definitely was a Pac-Man.
Yeah. I prefer Ms. Pac-Man, but I'll play regular Pac-Man.
Ms.
too.
Pac-Man is my jam too.
But yeah, so the Omegathon's the big like multi-day like thing.
Fun
like,
concept
once-
though, where like you enter and you don't know what you're playing, but like, are you the king of the gamers? Where here's a random partner, you don't know what you're going to play, so you can't practice, and it's just like we're just going to introduce you to a new game every day.
That sounds pretty cool,
I
though.
think it's a great concept.
It's like the ultimate sampler.
yeah,
And you have to agree to it when you buy your badges. Like it asks you whether or not you would be an Omega Knot is what they end up calling them. But there's a prize for it. It's not just like, oh, bragging rights. I think more often than not, at least in years past, you'd get a thing to Gamescom. So you could go to Germany to a big game convention, or
I'd like to just go to Germany. I think that'd be an awesome trip.
Well, and that's part of it. So like they win, and it's not just like, oh, here's your tickets for this convention. It's like, no, we'll fly you there. But then it becomes okay, It's like, did you forge a friendship with somebody now, playing games with them for 4 straight days? Do you go together, or do you just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see each other there maybe?
Or do you hate each other? I'm going to try my shout-out button. I think my shout-out button's not working, but Jonathan Lego Man wanted to shout out Miss Pac-Man. So
Miss Pac-Man, my favorite Pac-Man.
Yes, for sure. There was growing up. I had to be at it's called 5 Seats, now the Golisano thing. Not for me, but for a relative. But because it was like a kid's hospital, they had Ms. Pac-Man there, and you could play unlimited free rounds. Because
important distinction though, original Miss Pac-Man. There is definitely a rebooted one that was popped into arcade machines where it was meant to be a quarter dumper because her speed was so much slower than the rest of like the ghosts.
oh, why would they besmirch the good name of Ms. Pac-Man?
It always frustrated me because you could usually tell within the first couple seconds. You're like, I wasted a quarter. I'm not going to do anymore. There were a lot of other fun indie games. I didn't grab as many cards as I should, and a lot of what I did was just kind of the stroll past because we only had 2-day passes. So like day one was, check it out. Kind of give Evan the once-over guided tour of this is how and what's going on. Let's buy stuff so that it doesn't run out. And I still missed the opportunity to buy a few things because there were some show exclusives that were gone, even though we went fairly early in the day. Like they do an exclusive jacket every year. And
you've seen the one Pax jacket he wears.
Yeah.
It's like the Letterman
jacket.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this time they did like a bomber jacket with like space theme kind of patches on it. It was kind of cool. Not really my style, but I probably would have bought one. But by the time I got there, they had extra small and medium left,
which you could totally fit into.
Yeah, definitely.
Alex, not an extra small man.
No,
he's an extra medium man. That's for sure.
So to get the 2022 patch, you have to like come up with X amount of dollars of merch. So I like bought a pack of patches that they had on the shelf that were similar to the patches that are on the other jacket, and then like a play mat and like a bag that's kind of like the thank you bag, but it says good game down the front of it.
Wait, you had to buy that bag?
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought you got it for buying other stuff.
No, I was glad that they had it because I didn't know there wasn't. I don't tend to buy their T-shirts very often. Like I do have one kind of fun two-tone red one that I don't commonly wear, but at some point I'll crack it out so you guys can see it. That was from like 2016, 2017 maybe. But yeah, it was kind of that day one affair of like you wander around, you try and take as much in as you can. I've kind of gotten past the point of wanting to stand in line to demo games, especially from like, major companies. Not that I'm not going to play those games, but having done it before, unless there's a real reason, like unless you're going to get a discount or you're going to get a cool thing of merch or something, a lot of times it's just you stand in line for 2 hours to play for 15 minutes, and then you churn and burn, and that's a substantial part of your day because the expo floor is only open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then the kind of like I don't really. I guess it's retail row, where a lot of the local places or people that were willing to travel that are selling board games, Magic, high ticket Magic stuff that Evan and Joe and I looked at a few times. Like, do I? Don't I? Do I? Don't I? Do I? Don't I? And then we didn't.
I didn't. I would have.
Yeah.
Knowing how quickly things went. If I was a little bit more confident on Friday, I would have. I just wanted to see. We'll come back tomorrow. All the stuff I wanted was gone at that point. But
that's why, like at Ithacon, I went right to Don Simpson and picked out the books I wanted because you don't know what the quantities are.
Yeah.
And he was definitely like a star of that thing.
Yep.
But then so like there's that portion. Then there's like another side portion that's devoted just to Magic tournaments. One more for like bring your own PC or like rent a PC for the weekend. And there's like a whole cordoned off area for that. And then the rest of it, like a quarter of the hall is just tables to play D&D at, tables to organize play. There's a board game library that you can go just like, hey, I'm going to leave something with you that's mundane so that I have to come back with your game because sometimes the things in the board game library are not things that are in print anymore. So they don't want somebody walking off with, albeit a very beat up and played version of a game. But if you can't find it, it still might be a few $100s.
No, it's the same thing as, you find the beat up copy of a comic that's out
Yeah.
there, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
not printing this thing anymore. Like, got to just,
Yeah, like the Cerebus Spawn and stuff like that. Just legally will not be reprinted.
Yeah. Then the rest is kind of all of the actual floors themselves are split off into there's like 2 floors of, well, I guess 3 realistically, because there's a main theater where they do big events, QA. That's where we saw the Ack Inc. panel, panel live play.
the D&D.
That's where they do like the keynote speech in the beginning, because it seats like a few hundred people. Like it's not just like, it's the normal like hotel size little room where you're going to do a seminar where maybe you can fit 70 to 100 people. Like that main theater could fit 400, 500 people.
I would guess 500. That sounds about right.
Nice.
But then the rest of it's kind of laid out, so you have 4 different areas where they can have panels running all day long, every day, like even well into the night. Sometimes it's as simple as, somebody's going to go and kind of run a Jackbox games thing, and everybody can participate and have a little haha. Or there was one about the
I like Jackbox games.
There was one
we
about
did one. We did one, and it was all right. It was okay.
I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I do them with my in-laws.
the panelists were like people who were going to be playing in the D&D game, but they had like the creators from Jackbox there who probably could have vamped while they were like typing in their answers, and they just like they were
there.
like statues.
It was very weird that like they were there, the 2 developers of the game,
yeah.
flanked at either side of this table where the celebrity panel was, and they just stood there. They didn't say anything, and they would just wait for the game to be over, and then they'd say, "Well, our next game is," and it's like, "Oh yeah," like they totally could have like had some funny banter or things, and no, we're just going to stand here awkwardly for the next 5 minutes until this mini game ends, and then we'll introduce the next mini game. So, I don't know.
But you even have stuff like announcement panels where, maybe like a Gearbox Software is going to do a big, like, these are the games we're working on, these are the IPs we're coming with. In the past, I've gone to some of the big name developer panels, and they're like, thanks for showing up. Here's a code for a whole bunch of games for free. It's like, cool. Okay. They went so far as to have some panels with like psychologists on them about, what's the psychology behind X in gaming, like the sales driven end of like the weird DLC marketplaces, representation. There were a bunch of representation kind of panels. But yeah, and then the rest of it's just kind of, there's like a free play console area. There's like a place that you can go if you just need some place to just go be quiet. It said it written on marker on the door. It just said quiet room.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially the more we know about like people with autism and stuff like that, and they're interested in gaming. To have a place like that is probably a really good idea.
There's a little lounge with a whole bunch of Yogibos, like specifically Yogibo brand because they have a spot on the floor.
Because they're selling them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you can go lounge around in the console lounge where everybody is just on their DS or their Switch.
I thought maybe just
or
like laying on a stack of old Nintendos.
that would be funnier. They should have some Nintendo themed Yogibos. Like they got to get on that. Little food court areas here and there, food stashed around. I had a really
Tell
good,
us about your drink.
I had a really good bubble tea.
Oh yeah, I haven't had bubble tea in years.
Oh.
I was in love with it for an amount of time, and then I don't know. I'm not as excited about bubble tea, but maybe your tale will change my mind.
This was a hibiscus lemonade tea with lychee jellies.
Lychee?
Oh yeah.
Is that a leech, or is that just like, oh, it's a lychee
Like
jelly?
Lychee's like a little
lychee
hairy.
berry.
Yeah.
A hairy berry.
No,
So-
it's not a hairy berry. It's a hairy fruit with a jellyish interior, right?
No. It's kind of like a really big. It's hard to describe.
Is it like a brown hard seed with like hairs on it, and then you open it up and it's the jellies and the jelly stuff in the middle?
It's not really a jelly though. Like I've had them before. Like I guess your description that it is like one fruit,
Yeah.
but inside it's sort of just like a soft white flesh, like a lot of fruit. But it has like a citrusy kind of raspberry kind of taste. Yep. Crinkle. What are you crinkling?
This is a nice pin that I picked up for you, Aaron. Have a frog on a koi fish.
That is pretty.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. That's loaded. But it's
pretty darn cool.
Yeah. The guy and that was Lucas showed us the cat with the ramen pin. I was trying to find some pins. I'm not a huge pin guy, but I've got a handful of pins, and I noticed everybody was rocking so many pins. I was like, I'm going to find an artist that I like.
Here, the crazy part about pins, especially at Penny Arcade, is that it's a big money industry. There are pins that are hundreds of dollars, especially. So you have things like that where it's somebody's cool enamel pin, but then you have Penny Arcade branded stuff. So like you have to get approval through Penny Arcade to make like the enamel pin that's like a certain size, and they'll like give you the backing card for it that's like this kind of blue color. Then it says Penny Arcade. So you'll have a booth where maybe they're selling stuff like that, and then they have the like PAX exclusive Penny Arcade pin. And if you don't get it that year, it will probably never be sold again.
Jonathan says, I want to do pins for my next Kickstarter. I haven't found a design yet. That's cool. Do you want to do, you've done pins. Do you want to do pins?
I'll do pins.
You should touch base with Tavis.
Like, I wonder if,
I mean, you can do acrylic pins. They cost a lot less. That's what I have for Wesley. You can get a good
you want to
deal.
do something like that?
An enamel pin?
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I know, like, yeah.
That could be something fun where, like, maybe, like, you do a pin, Caetano does a pin, I'll do a pin. Whoever wants to do a pin, like, we do a series of 5 pins.
That'd be awesome.
And then maybe we get pins made up of, like, everybody's little doodles. That'd be kind of fun.
Tavis has a guy that he works with.
Shout out to Tavis,
or
maybe.
something like that, because he did like obviously all the
Larry's Bestiary.
Yep, Larry's Bestiary stuff was all enamel pins, but that's because somewhere out there he works with or knows a guy or is at least loosely associated with this person who, like, that's a lot of what they do is they make enamel pins. Like the person did a run of Street Fighter pins. Just
Because that's udon, right?
there you go. That's
Yeah.
what it was. Udon. So, but
yeah,
yeah.
there's a bunch of pin fulfillment places. I've looked into it a little bit over the years. I haven't done the enamel ones just because the cost barrier to entry is quite a bit higher than the acrylic.
The comic shop makes a set of pins. I think that might be a fun random thing to do.
Yeah,
Where,
I'm down.
yeah. Again, we just not crowdsource it, but just,
Even Randy might have some kind of
We
inside
find-
line on that because White Wizard did a whole bunch of enamel pins for Star Realms and Epic at one point.
we find 5 people. Everybody gets it. You make your pin, and then, I don't know, another dumb thing to do. Another dumb thing to sink money into. I love it. I love it.
But is it dumb if you enjoy doing it?
Everything I enjoy is dumb. Alex, give me.
Sum
I don't
up
wanna-
Pax in one word.
I know we've summed
Not
up Pax. I think we've done a good job at that.
Fun. I'll give you the like wicked lame super board. It's
Yes.
fun.
I'm over Pax.
He's over it.
I'm over Ithacon.
He's over it.
What I'd like to end the show on is, can you tell us what you got at Legal Seafood on Friday night?
Legal seafood.
Legal Seafood is a like
Not illegal
it's
seafood.
a higher end seafood chain in like Boston. There
Ah,
are a number
hoity-toity.
of them, and the one that we went to was right in the seaport. So like we were standing at the ocean waiting to get our order called, like literally standing at the ocean looking out towards Logan Airport. And we wander inside, and our frantic waiter.
Our waiter. There was he had some choice words for some of the other wait staff that was on tonight. However, after a while, we came to the conclusion that he's not helping himself in this situation either. That other people are screwing up, but he's making the whole situation possibly that much worse. But he was trying.
So I look over the menu, and there's all kinds of nice lobster and fish. You could get a swordfish steak if you wanted to, kind of stuff. And then I see that there is an additional sushi menu, and I was like, I can get tuna tataki, nice blackened seared tuna.
That sounds great.
Which is like one of my favorite appetizer kind of things to get for sushi.
It looked great. Alex won did. Alex was the food champion of the weekend, but this was his
The coup de grace.
Then there's like a short nigiri menu, so I get a little unagi nigiri, so I get some eel, and then at the very bottom of the list I see lobster tempura. I was like, huh, okay, so it's lobster tempura with avocado, and they put the tempura lobster in there, and it's topped with some roe, and it's like, okay, yeah. There's no price on it because it's all market, because it's fresh for the day, whatever. Put in my order. We sit around, eat some bread. We watch some people get pissed off and leave. It's kind of funny.
As you do.
It was a little chaotic. Well, I think that it's right by the convention center, but for the past couple of years, who knows what's been going on at the convention center? Maybe they're just not used to these volumes of people again now that things are starting to open back up. So I'll give them a little bit of a break, but it was kind of fun to watch. We didn't have any issues.
So everybody's stuff starts to come out. I get my tuna tataki, and these guys get their soup, and just kind of just
A little cup of clam chowder, and then Joe got a lobster bisque. Pretty standard. It was great.
Just enjoying the atmosphere, because it was kind of just chill. The sun had already set, so like all the soft house lights had come on, and then out comes everybody's main entree. Evan gets a nice little dish of fish and chips and whatever else he got.
Fried everything, which was great. But it's just a very brown. I mean, it was delicious. It was delicious, but it's just this kind of brown plate that it's fried seafood.
Speaking of delicious, I did get 2 sandwiches from the Ithaca Bakery. Highly recommend.
Going back to Alex's dinner.
Ithaca has a lot of great stuff, but yeah. So Joe gets his little plate of grilled salmon,
Which also
or whatever
it was grilled salmon, broccoli, and some kind of potato.
Yep.
Now we're talking.
And that looked fantastic too. I wasn't sure if
So
there was
how many courses is this now?
No, it was just an app. We had our bread. We had our appetizer. Now this is our main.
3, 5, 10. So then here comes my sushi, and it's like, okay, and here's my 2 little unagi nigiri, like very much the same, a little rice ball, some eel, little wrap of seaweed around it, and then they put down my lobster sushi, and it is the head of the lobster and just the tail of the lobster, and then the roll in the middle, and he just kind of like sets it carefully in front of me. I was like, oh wow, okay, that's impressive.
It was beautiful.
Other than the than the tail shell, I was like, okay, yeah, this is just the lobster they cut up to do my thing.
It was beautiful and terrifying all at the same time, but I loved it.
The eyes stared at me while I ate.
I offered.
I know what you've done.
I offered to poke out the eyes for Alex too, but
I took the tail off, and there was like one fresh little lobster nugget that had been battered, and I was like, oh man, this is like the greatest precursor ever. It was all great, and then to finish. These guys are all tapped out. Joe's like, I can't. In
Boston.
He packed up his potatoes, and Evan tapped out. And I was like, what's the dessert menu like? So I got a Boston cream pie in Boston.
Because that's what you do.
I mean, that's a choice. People do that.
Yeah.
Actually, the dessert menu was only a handful of things, and I think that it was like a tiramisu.
Tiramisu.
Was it tiramisu?
There's we had talked about that.
Is that what? Okay.
There's a New York cheesecake.
You can't get a New York cheesecake in Boston.
Some kind of like lemon curd, maybe something else like that.
Lemon curd, more like lemon turd.
Yeah. Like 1 or 2 other ice creamy kind of dishes, and I was like, nope, Boston cream pie, which was like an advanced cheesecake with some toffee crumble on it. It was pretty
advanced cheesecake, toffee crumble.
But what Evan didn't tell you is that on our way there from the CVS, we got to watch just like the greatest stereotypical moment of being in downtown city while people are getting ready to go to their various dinners or beer garden experiences. And we get the horde of guys on dirt bikes with the one guy on a 4-wheeler popping wheelies,
going through traffic, just being loud and obnoxious. Yeah.
Is this a thing that happens in cities a lot?
I'm surprised that you guys didn't see it while you were in Rochester at some point.
Well, because like whenever we call my brother-in-law Eric down in New York City, it always seems like he's always talking to us when he walks around because he never calls us from his apartment. But it's always very noisy, like honking and stuff. But then we'll hear like brr, brr, brr. It's just like it sounds like wherever he goes, it's dirt bikes. It sounds like he's out here.
It's become a regular occurrence, basically everywhere.
The dirt bike pack that will show up, and the one guy on the 4-wheeler, the ATV, doing, and it's so obnoxious. But I also enjoyed it. That was very satisfying to be like, oh, here's a really, here's some terrible human beings just causing a ruckus, but I'm going to get a little bit of satisfaction out of this because I don't have to live with it. So.
Because it's a little easier to get something like that down in downtown rather than like a jacked up diesel truck.
Yeah. We didn't. So in the last. So like I'm trying to remember like the whole setup of how we ended up at Legal Seafood. We're going through the seaport, and we walk past. Oh, there's a steakhouse or like another place that we could eat. And I was like, nope, there's a Lambo parked out in front of it. I probably don't have enough money to eat there.
But we ended up at Legal Seafood. A lot of good eating. Larry J's Barbecue. Shout out to Larry J.
Larry
Also,
J.
Pete's Dockside.
Pete's Dockside. Great breakfast at Pete's Dockside.
Join the dockside.
All the blue collar guys were out there on their break with a bunch of nerds getting their breakfast.
Well, that's how you know it's good.
The staff was hustling, and the food was great. A lot of good eating this weekend, and I don't know. I think we've gone well over our allotted time.
Well, I had a dark. I had a. It's called the Octopus from Ithaca Bakery. It's a dark rye with coleslaw. With
I'm there for it.
With turkey on there.
That sounds great.
It was good.
Any sauce? Any like a mustard or a
No,
Thousand Island? Or
that's a beautiful thing about the coleslaw. They got the sauce.
okay, very good.
The mayo's already there.
The mayo is already there.
Any final words on Ithacon, Aaron?
It was good. It was good.
Alex, any final words on PAX?
We'll probably go back next year, so long as the world doesn't implode.
I'll give it a 50-50 shot then.
Hopefully, we can make it a thing.
You know, Rice had a independent gaming component to it as well.
I see. And Evan, not to prolong the end of this as we're trying to sign off, we had all kind of talked about, like, I don't know, maybe we need to like gather ourselves a little more and make this an excursion a little more often. Get a little like
2 packs
light to anywhere, to Rice, to Ithacon, to just like the little convention circuit, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in New York that I myself wouldn't go alone, but if Aaron was going or Evan was going with Aaron, maybe I'd go too.
I think for Rice next year we need to rally like him and Joe, because I do think that they would enjoy not only the comics aspect of things, but the local independent gaming aspect of things.
Plus, it also gives you a reprieve if you need to get up and just stretch your legs. Like,
and we can make
somebody
a weekend
can
of
sit
it.
there and
man
somebody can sit there and man the table for a minute.
I think the comic shop core crew is a good group of people, and I would like to spend more time with them.
That's the final words.
I love you.
I don't know if I go that far, but
Take us home.
all right. Hey, you've been listening to the Isugo Comic Shop Does a Podcast with me, Papa Z. Lee.
I am with the boss of the month.
And I am Alex Dexter.
Have a great night, everybody.